it's happening again. It's the stream. It's the fake truth stream. It's happening again. Again, yet again, it is very late or early, depending on where you are in America. Um, but this is Sunday here for me, and I just had to get a little sleep. That's something people should do, I guess, every once in a while. Um, as you can see from these expertly shot phone videos, have been traveling a fair amount, just moving around, and right, it's just generally kind of exhausting. Even though you're not really doing anything, you're just sitting there in some taxi or train or car or other sort of mode of transportation. I guess you look at your phone, look at articles, but it doesn't exactly ever feel good. I mean, I guess it's interesting to look out the window and see what's going on there, but it can be pretty tiring. Fascinating at the same time, but tiring nonetheless. Now, I wanted to get into some news. But just you can see here, these people, this sort of crush of humanity. And I was thinking about the trade-offs. There's a lot of trade-offs in life. How it's great to have public transportation, to have a system that can get you from point A to point B, regardless of where you want to get. Basically, on the European continent, there's access for you, but what you end up doing is waiting around a lot. I mean, you can see these people. You just sort of wait, and then you get on the transportation device, and then you wait on that thing, basically, possibly for many hours. And you're doing it for a goal, right? You're expecting something. You're headed someplace, so which I guess makes the waiting okay. But the net amount of standing around and waiting that happens in an average life here is quite substantial, I would say. Big portions of your day, or depending on what you're doing, could just be soaked up climbing escalators and waiting for that next train, And whether that's really what we're supposed to be doing, I get the sinking suspicion that we do too much of this standing around and waiting. That's not really what it's all about. Not really, anyways. Just gonna check out the stream health. Looks like everything's going well. Before I get into the news, though, I that's sort of why I titled this video what I titled it. Just want to make sure this is working. So unfortunately, I made this video and there was some audio problems. I appreciate you all coming to check it out at any rate. But that's not what I really wanted to talk about. I wanted to get into Miss Susan Donahue's comment here because if you don't know Susan Donahue, she's sort of this like underground commenting hero of this community, this truth community that I guess we all find ourselves in, and just very generous, very outspoken, powerful person. And I just wanted to highlight, let's see if I can, doesn't look like I can zoom it, but I wanted to go through her comment because I think it's really spot on and it's worth talking about. Right? So she's talking about a 3-day global power outage that's going to break the spell. And that, from everything that's being signaled, that's why her comment rings so true for me, because it really just lines up with a lot of things that are in entertainment, in on the television, and really just also in your gut feeling, right? And so this darkness, this dark period has been, sort of prophesized for a long time now, especially this whole year. But also going way back, Under the Stars was just talking about revolution, and that's the whole concept there in Revolution, that the technology goes out, that the lights go out. And again, it's always sort of, when you see it in media, it's a distortion or a misrepresentation, but they still let the core actual event or idea slip through, so then you can really sort of get a feel for what's happening, right? Right, so that's whatever you want to call it, the plasma apocalypse, or Nibiru coming, the black hole sun, and any of these sort of names that you have for it, it really does seem like there will be this 3-day global power outage, and this will break the spell of whatever has been going on. But at the same time, you will have a lot of people going through withdrawal, basically, because so many people are so technology addicted. It's almost like, people don't really even enjoy this life. They're just addicted to it. The phone and the walking to the next event. If that all breaks down instantly without a proper warning, then people are just going to be very upset and confused, probably off their meds, jonesing for something. Maybe just for some food and water, but also for their antidepressants, for their cannabis, for whatever. People are going to be out of luck. So that's what it seems like, is sort of the plan, because then there will be a huge loss of life as a result of that. And that seems like, if I was an evil Luciferian, then that would definitely be my idea. Right, and it is by all accounts something to do with the atmosphere, some sort of overcharging, right. And so you hear a lot about these tentacles, these tendrils that will come down from the sky and seem like friendly friends, but are actually plasma or lightning and will electrocute you, and you will die. So don't go hug the tentacles if when this happens. Right, but that's the thing. They've known about this for a long time, and that it's coming. Right, they know what's coming. It happens every 3,600 years, because from that article I was reading the other day about the black hole sun, that maybe Planet 9 really is this black hole sun, like a mini black hole, and ends up just doing the same thing every time it circles back around, and that periodicity, the time it takes this sun, this black hole to orbit the sun is 3,600 years, and that it just like a new day comes around every day, that this black hole is headed our way, right? And there's not really anything you can do to stop it, just like you can't do anything to stop the next day from coming, right? And it's no doubt that there will be some sort of large cataclysm if this causes massive earthquakes or floods or anything. I mean, you can picture if what they say about black holes is even remotely true, that if it starts to pull on the earth and change it, right, even if it doesn't get close enough to destroy the earth, that it would push and pull the matter here, right? And that could be the cause of liquefaction or any sort of other massive earth changes that we've heard of documented in the past. Right, and it's just, it continues to make a lot of sense to me that before, during the recent one, the great flood that we see in the Bible represented, that there were definitely some survivors that they found in some caves. They went underground and they were able to survive. And once they came out, they knew it was coming back around again, and they just got to planning. What else would you do if you were one of these people, right? You made it through this massive cataclysm, and you knew it was coming back around again, and this is your family. Wouldn't you try to protect your family? I think that's, what a lot of people would do. But part of this evil is just, human nature, trying to protect your own. And, but it does seem like this does play a part, this sort of awakening and people becoming aware of what's actually going on. And it really is happening very quickly. And that's, that seems to be one of the main reasons for censoring or limiting the reach of channels like this and other sort of fringe ideas, that it really is sort of spot on. And that if you are conscious, if you are aware of what's possibly going to happen, and you've gone through different scenarios in your mind, that, when that day comes, that everything goes dark, or there's some giant monster being up in the sky, that you'll definitely be scared. You'll be worried. Your heart's going to start pounding, but you're not going to absolutely lose your mind the way people that are completely unprepared for it, probably will be. If you don't think about any of this stuff, and you wake up one day and there is some giant monster in the sky with tentacles and reaching towards you, I mean, it makes sense. The surprise factor is key, which makes me, want to talk about this stuff even more, because it helps me work it through, and then hopefully it'll help you work it through. So this initial shock is not as powerful as they're hoping, right? Because I believe that, if especially if you're a little older, that you see something that is so beyond your sense of reality or possibility that it gives you a heart attack, and you're just done, like Bernie Sanders style. Damn, Bernie Sanders burn. Bernie burn. Right? And whether this is some like literal battle between angels and demons up in the sky, or something more, plasma related, something a little more scientific, it's sort of irrelevant. The fact that something, heretofore unseen happening up in the sky is enough to make people crazy. People will commit suicide and drive their cars off cliffs, and right, a lot of that makes sense. So I just want to keep pushing out that message even more now, just to be aware. You realize how powerful your consciousness is, and how important it is to master it. How important it is to, to the best of your ability, have a grasp on it. And I realize, I have my addictions and proclivities just like anybody else here in this world, and you start to realize how that will be very problematic when there is a big shift, and how sort of fragile we've become or been made, having so many different, easy ways of life, having electricity in the nice electromagnetic bath that you get every night watching television, from any of the drugs, just simple ibuprofen, that if you're in pain and you're not able to ease that in the simple modern way that you're used to, that would be very upsetting. Very upsetting. I mean, and I don't want to steal all of her fire, but you can go read this comment yourself, and that's why I'm going to leave this video up, even though the audio is completely broken, because this is a quality comment. I'm sure she's posted these ideas on other channels and other platforms, but I still think, right, everybody that's interested in surviving the coming apocalypse, they should just be familiar with these ideas, right? And that's definitely a big possibility that some things will go down, though they're more so towards the Middle East, or where these other things used to happen. And that makes a lot of sense to me, why the news is just so insanity and so fast paced, and just generally kind of annoying in its relentless distractionary tactics of itself, right? That every day, we're going to look at some of these articles, but so much of it is so, sensational, inflammatory, and emotionally sort of, like grabs you really quick that it keeps you away from any sort of long-term planning or ideas or any sort of farther reaching consciousness, And I think that ties into all the waiting and everything that we do too, because it's almost like, right, you're spending most of your life waiting and standing around, and that's not time that you spend working on your consciousness, right? That's time you're spending, is it going to show up? Am I on the right track? Am I on the right road? Is my GPS telling me the best way to get there? Right? This is not time that you're spending shaping your consciousness into something more powerful. It's almost like a weakness training. Right? And just, to get to this part of it, the hard part to really know what's going to happen if this part of it is true, that it's not just a cataclysm and something happening on our regular, plane of understanding, that it really is some sort of next level, where we're moving from this dimension to another dimension, and that's what allows us to see these terrifying things, right? Because by all accounts, there are multiple dimensions of existence, and there are other entities that exist on these higher dimensional planes, and right, it makes me think of Bird Box and many other recent popular titles. Blindness is another movie / book that comes to mind, where this exact scenario is sort of displayed. Some event happens, it's inexplicable, and all of a sudden there's just terror filling the streets. In Bird Box, it really is these sort of ghostly, terrifying entities floating around, and that makes a lot of sense if it really was spirits or just, simply entities that live on a higher plane, and just look kind of strange to us in our regular surroundings. That would, again, be another push to insanity. And all of this connects really well for me to the mud flood and the global reset, because, right, if this was the case, and because what does she say? It's really worth checking out her whole comment. I'll just say that. But in the resets, we see a lot of orphan trains and kids being shuffled off to, God knows where, all sorts of different places, and that they're without their parents or anything. And it seems like a lot of these cities were repopulated with children, and that makes a lot of sense if most of the adults, like literally most of them, go insane by seeing what they're seeing. But that most kids are spared because at a young age you're still able to see into these higher dimensions, and that's why animals will be okay. Other creatures that aren't so rationalized the way your average Western human is. That all of this programming, it's to keep us busy, keep us spending money, but that may be the actual end game there. That living in society is almost a guarantee that you will lose your shit when this all goes down, because, right, you've sort of been programmed from the ground up to not be okay with anything that's happening. Right. Visible to cats, dogs, infants, toddlers, and that makes a lot of sense, that at a young age you're still able to see through these other realms and believe in these possibilities until society's able to get into your mind and tell you otherwise. So I'm going to leave it there, but thank you, Susan. Thank you for being a very powerful, awesome part of this community. I appreciate that, and I'm sure other people do as well. So, let me just get over here. Just get back to my other screen here. Right, and if if she was really talking some total random nonsense, then I really wouldn't focus that much on it. But we're going to look right here at Preacher, which I'm watching currently. It's really a super well-made show, but full of all this programming and terrifyingness, right? I was already looking at another frame from Preacher using the octagon to represent the world. But here we have our, well, at least my favorite shape. We got the hexagon, the good old hexagon. And, right, this is when our main hero character gets in a plane crash on, not really important, the plot details, but then they're stuck out at sea and unable to, paddle or really get themselves out of this terrible situation. And the preacher is made to feel that because he was using the voice of God, which is some magical power that he sort of, stumbled upon, where he's able to get people to do what he says, that this keeps going wrong, that this is, he tries to help people, but they end up actually dying or getting much more hurt. And this pilot here is case in point, he ends up suffering pretty badly because the preacher tried to save him with the voice of God. And I guess the lesson is that, don't try to be God unless, unless nothing. Like, don't, even if you have the power, you should not do that. But again, interesting that the boat happens to be this hexagon, this hex that they're under. And so how much of these ideas, right, is this the grand hex that we're talking about here, that we've all been put under in order to not survive what's coming, in order to be driven mad by what's coming? Is that the greatest hex of them all? It's possible, right? And in this show, it's, they make light of this whole aspect, that there's this cult here, this sort of pseudo-religious death cult that I guess is modeled on the Freemasons, and everything that they have uses these colors, the black, or not the black, the white and the red. And again, with inversions and sort of double meanings, this, it jives perfectly. It's the same colors as Gmail, and I know the white and red are important to that community here, but in this show, it sort of made a joke, and that they sort of like some pseudo corporate structure, that they've been planning this for a long time, and they got some spreadsheets here, they got some charts, right? Phase 1 is infiltrate, and you get everybody, get all of your people into powerful positions. Place, and it's called the Grail. It's not called the Freemasons, but it's called the Grail. Place Grails in key government positions. That sounds a lot like what happens with the secret societies, but here it's sort of made fun of. And this, I'm just interested. This is a frame that goes by very quickly, but it's interesting to notice these different symbols here filled to different levels with the red, whatever that is supposed to mean, their religious belief or their innate power. And I don't know if I caught the phrase here now, but phase 2 would be, phase 2 was, what were they saying? It's amplify or intensify or something. So the next phase is to make everything sort of seem crazy, and by the end, they're shooting the government employees that are not loyalists and setting off those nukes, because it's almost like, regardless of what the actual plan is, if there really is a black hole sun or any of that, they don't want to leave anything to chance. So might as well just set off all the nukes at the same time and clear out as many people as you possibly can. It's a good chance to blur those lines where, right, if it was just the black hole sun and the plasma and all that kind of stuff, that maybe I don't know, half or a third, or it's hard to say how many people would actually perish in that event. But if you amplify that event with nuclear weapons and other large scale attacks, I mean, first of all, you'll be completely covered because shit'll be all fucked up, and it'll be hard to tell the difference between what got plasmid and what got nuclear striked. And in that sense, right, it's again a good plan, because then you will be able to clear out a lot of your enemies, oppressors, or opponents, and as long as you have a nice underground bunker, you'll be able to ride this whole thing out. Preferably some sort of bunker where nobody's died, so there's no spirits there left over to bother you and drive you insane. And that's TV, but it all ties into this infotainment, phone roulette that we're all playing, where you pick up your device and you want to see what's going on. And right, I was talking a bit about this in the video that is unintelligible. That there just seems to be an insane amount of asteroids coming into our orbit these days, or at least that's the story we're being told, and that many of these, some of them, like Oumuamua and this newer one, are coming from interstellar space, but that many of the other ones that they've been tracking for years are coming very close, right? They're coming closer than the moon in their orbits. That with some of these, there's a chance that they could hit the Earth, And again, think about that sort of coordinated strike where they know exactly, this asteroid is going to hit. It's 90% basically. And then you coordinate that with, again, some nuclear strikes or some other sort of large-scale war. And the lines will be blurred. It'll be impossible to tell what was the asteroid and what was the nuclear winter part of it. Is a nuclear winter even possible, or is that a story that's being told? Because that would be a pretty good story if an asteroid came and caused the winter, but you were able to blame it on Pakistan and India fighting, or maybe somebody else, maybe Russia and America. And then you have a bunch of scapegoats, plus possibly millions of people dead, and no one is the wiser, and they're able to do it again. I think that's why now is right. It's so important. It's not guaranteed quite yet that they're going to get to do this again, because I think that's the big hope, to go underground, keep the knowledge, keep those computers running, and resurface again, and just run this whole game again for another 3,600 years. Again, that's probably what I would do in their situation. And so, right, it really is hard to sort of parse through all this different data, but, right, this was in Chile. A lot of people talking about this event of strange objects falling to the ground, that they weren't meteorites, they weren't on the list or whatever, but that they fell anyways, that they happened. And people are curious, they're investigating, but still no official word, right? And this is, again, a story that's been spread around. It's not a tiny little story. And I think anything that pierces my consciousness, and then also the consciousness of Mr. MBB333 or any of you other folks around, that story is larger and is, at least been signed off on as being okay to spread around. That it can be part of the narrative. And again, I guess one of my favorite things is connecting these random, right? What you could say, what does this staircase have to do with meteorites? But here is, just some random bar restaurant here in Hamburg, and you see the stairs down to the bathroom, and how sort of weird this is, how awkwardly built that these stairs go down. There was obviously some other sort of structure here not even that long ago. And people rebuild stuff, they change their minds. But, and maybe it's just my confirmation bias, but this looks like it was not the original plan. This was not their original plan, and these fixes are old. They're not brand new fixes. And that, I'm not. I just can't be sure of anything. But this wasn't the ground level. That this got dug out somehow. And I wonder how these towers tie into all this. I honestly do. Can't put my finger on it. But if we're talking about plasma and electromagnetic radiation coming down from the sky, it seems like these extremely powerful electromagnetic generating objects could have something to do with it. And I just sort of like this picture because it's the two technologies in the same picture, right? Again, with this copper dome, fake, sort of, right? We're told it's a clock tower, but it must have had some other purpose in the past. And in the same image here, our good friend. I guess I should get back to work, do some normal stuff. But I would definitely recommend not doing this. Seems like a good way to. Because it's hard to know what's actually going on in the news, but I feel pretty confident about not doing what they're telling you here. I personally would recommend not doing what they're telling you here because, again, for all of these reasons, you want to have a clear head. You want to be as healthy as you can in this toxic world. And this doesn't seem to help with any of that. If you know what I mean. Do you know what I mean? Do I know what I mean? That's a good question. I'm going to come over and check here. Looks like, we didn't have a very active chat, but it definitely is like 3 in the morning, / 5:30 in the morning in most of America. So I'm just going to say what's up. What's up, people? Good to see you. Right? There's still more to talk about, but there's always gonna be, I guess try not to poison yourself. I'm having trouble, really closing these streams out without a proper ending. Damn. All right. We get to the Joker tomorrow. Let's get a screen. Let's get this black screen in here. It's been real, guys. We'll catch you on the flip side as I search for the stop streaming button.